Hey everybody, it's Eric with What's in the Box. We're doing the author interviews for Texas Horror Lit Fest. That's going to be June 26th, 27th. Nope, get it wrong every time. 27th, 28th. So June 27th, 28th, 10 to 6. Come out and see all the cool horror, sci-fi, fantasy writers. And today we are sitting down and talking with William Xavier Chandler.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on. Um, so we start these interviews always with the same question. Is it Freddie, Jason, Michael?
I think it's Michael, Jason, Freddie.
Do you? All
Yeah.
right. So Michael's your guy.
Longer. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's really my guy. I love all three, but he's the guy.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, when we started the very first time years ago when we did this, it was only Jason and Michael, but everybody kept trying to throw Freddie in there, so we started including him. So
And I get that too because he's the guy that has personality and can speak and became the symbol of horror for a whole generation of people.
sure, I get that too. So so Michael's your favorite. Which one? What's your favorite Halloween?
Oh, the very first one.
That one, that's the one that got you on the path.
Oh yeah, from a very early age. And I don't slag, you know, part two or part four. I could really do without, three, five, and six, especially six.
Hmm.
And then, everything else is, could either be seen as just like icing on the cake or super unnecessary, depending on what your perspective is. I dug the first of these last three and kind of lost interest from there with each one. But
Yeah.
I totally respect the attempt that they made. I respect the attempt that they all made, but if I'm gonna sit down and put a horror movie on or a Halloween movie on, it's gonna be the first one.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I understand why it's iconic, but for some reason, I gravitate more towards number two. I enjoy
Mm.
that one a little bit more out of the Michael movies, but I'm a big fan of three. So, um, I don't remember being a huge fan of it as a kid, just because I don't think I got it. But now, as an adult, that's the one I seem to like to go to. Um,
If I gave it a second chance, I could probably just appreciate it for its own merits.
mhm.
Uh, I, I hated that it was just lumped in as a Halloween movie.
Well, yeah, I think initially he wanted to do an anthology series. He didn't want it to be
Yeah,
a Michael Myers thing. So we should have seen already something like that for two. But I
right.
understand why the producers were like, well, no, we're cashing checks here. So we're going to keep flooding it with Michael. They gave
Yeah,
him a shot with three. And by that time, it had already been established. They could have just released that as Season of the Witches, and then we wouldn't have a discussion
yeah,
because it wouldn't be
exactly.
part of that franchise. But
I get that.
yeah, no, I think that's and I'm a big Jason guy, so I always go with Jason first. I like his catalog beginning to end more than I do, but I understand why Michael is so important. So
Right. Yeah. And no, and definite props to Friday the 13th.
I mean, then and there would be no Friday the 13th without Halloween. So we all know that. He said that every interview with Sean Cunningham or whatever his name is,
Yeah,
always says
exactly.
that he was just trying to make a Halloween knockoff that he could make some money doing. So well, and he did. I think he's the best of the knockoffs. So
Yeah, and I
um,
think from there they kind of just influenced each other. And
yeah, I
then
think
to where you're basically trying to outdo the last film and the last kill, and we get some good stuff out of that, but we also get a lot of overkill
oh
because
for
they're
sure, yeah, it
basically
gets
releasing
saturated at the
a
end.
movie a year.
Yeah, yeah. No, they ran out of ideas. Um, Probably way before they stopped making movies. So some of
Right,
that stuff is a little bit, and then some of it gets zany, and you get a little bit of fun too with that. And
right.
um, but when you look back, I can see why it worked so well in the '80s. The '80s had that vibe to it. You could get away with doing crazy stuff like that. I don't think
Yeah,
you can
for
get away
sure.
with it as much now. So, on to the next question. Do you have a favorite cryptid or creature? And I have a
Hmm.
feeling you might, but because I was looking at your book, so I see something there that might be it. But if not, if you have a different one, that's cool too.
And I don't really consider, vampires as creatures
Hmm.
because, they are humans, but I would say that my favorite cryptid is probably the original, Wolfman, and all the, you know, spin-offs or iterations of werewolves that we have from that. If I could take kind of a werewolf and a grizzly bear and put those two together, I think that would be my bread and butter when it comes to cryptids and creatures.
Yeah,
Um,
a nice werebear. That would be
exactly.
pretty cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
There's a
I
couple
haven't
out
seen it
there,
yet.
but yeah, no, I get that. And werewolf's actually been very popular. Werewolf keeps popping up.
Yeah,
And I totally get your point about vampires because really they are just undead humans. So, I mean, technically, I guess you could go that route with it. Um, but yeah, no, werewolves have been super popular. What's your favorite werewolf movie?
I actually think well, I would have said the original Wolfman with Lon Chaney Jr.,
Hmm.
but I think American Werewolf in London has overtaken that for me. It's kind of like it's my, generation's, iconic Wolfman, and uh but I believe it's those two. It's American Werewolf in London and then the original Lon Chaney Jr. Wolfman.
Yeah, that movie is incredible and so fun. Um, both of them. I mean, American Werewolf is iconic simply for the transformation.
Right.
Um, but it's a well done movie.
Oh yeah.
And that's another thing. I think sometimes it gets lost in that is that people forget just how start to finish all of the moving parts that Landis has in it. He did a really good job.
Yeah, when you're a good filmmaker like that, I mean, you can basically make just a really good movie, and it
Hmm.
doesn't really matter what the protagonist is or what the genre is. And I think because you have, werewolf in the title, and you have those iconic kind of even graphic, scenes and depictions, you can take away from the fact that it's a really good movie throughout. And I think the humor in his movie and the deadpan humor, I think, was influencing horror filmmakers, for generations, even to stuff that's come out this last few years.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think what he did was he allowed us to, or he reminded us of the humor in a lot of these situations because we're coming off when he's doing this movie, he's coming off of these super serious films in the 70s. Don and I did a whole thing on books and movies from the 70s that they were trying to get away from that vibe of kiddie horror. So then we get these really super, almost Oscar worthy movies where we get just a run of all these adult oriented stuff. And you go and watch those and they take themselves so very seriously. And they want you to understand that this is a serious subject. I think that's a cool thing about early 80s movies because you
Right.
get movies like, American Werewolf and House, even though that was probably 84, 85, so it was a little bit later. But they had so many of these great like Evil Dead,
Yeah.
these iconic, there's very serious subject matter, but they still allowed us to see the humor in it, which then increases the horrific nature of the movie
Right.
because we find ourselves laughing at things that we shouldn't be laughing at. And I thought it's a good turn. I think that's the other thing the 80s did really well was try to show us just how many subgenres or how you can tackle the horror thing and be a little bit more open to pulling in a wider audience and not
Yeah.
just the hardcore folks. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm a
Yeah.
big fan of American Werewolf, but I'm a huge wolf man because I prefer my werewolves to be that humanoid. Do
Mhm.
you have a preference?
No, not really. I really love how the Howling gave us, what would seem like just a man, and went completely, over the top, like 7, 8 feet tall,
Hmm.
and it's like completely from man to animal. There's no After the transformation is complete, there is no linking the two. They're like two different entities in one body. I love the way the Howling did that.
Yeah, and you can see that inspiration in movies later on, like Underworld and stuff, where the werewolves are so much larger than the humans, when they
Yeah,
transform, they transform into these beasts and stuff. Dog Soldiers is kind of the same way. Everything's a little
for
bit more
sure.
exaggerated. So yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of werewolves, mostly because I'm a huge idiot for practical effects. And so I loved watching like, oh, how are they going to do it? So I find it's ruined a little bit nowadays because CGI
Oh yeah,
allows them to get away with some of this stuff and it's a little cheaper. But back in the day, to see, oh, how are they going to do a transformation or a decapitation, or how they're going to show this, you know, insane kill. How are we going to get that without having, CGI? Now, sometimes CGI is pretty cool too. I mean, like if you look at what is it, Ghost Ship has one of the best openings, and most of that CGI when the wire goes through everybody.
right.
But I think also it was fresh. It was like right at the beginning,
Hmm.
and now we've got I mean, you can just turn on TV and you can watch just some streaming movie that's got no budget, but somehow has figured out how to CGI stuff. And so I
Exactly.
still love a good, how are we going to make this person look like they're melting practically? And then somebody goes out and does it. My favorite movie probably is The Thing for that nature, because I just love the special effects and how just insane the whole thing is. And then you go and watch behind the scenes and you learn it's just a kid who has no idea what he's doing, just lighting shit on fire and almost killing everybody doing it. It makes me smile thinking about stuff like that. It's just a cool way of doing it.
Yeah, there's happy accidents,
Hmm.
and the result, especially with the thing, is just so like almost like it's monumental on how influential every aspect of that movie is.
Yeah, and it's shocking. Well, it's not shocking because it always happens that way when studios don't support. But to know that it bombed, that it's like nobody gave a rat's ass. It's like one of the greatest horror movies ever made. Might be one of the greatest movies. It's a top tenner.
And I
So,
hated it. I hated it when it came out. I was, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old when I first saw it, and I was I was already a purist.
oh
And I was
yeah,
like, this isn't anything like the original thing.
right, right,
What's up with all this special effects and all this gross? And I didn't even touch it for at least 20 more years. And then when I started realizing that it was on everybody's top 10 list, I was like, maybe I got to go back and get rid of my James Arness,
right.
bias and check it out. And when I did, I was like, oh yeah, this is like one of the greatest things ever. Like
Yeah,
every single thing about it.
what's funny is my father is anti-horror. He hates horror. Was
Mhm.
not a fan at all. But he didn't consider The Thing horror. So we
Right.
saw it all the time. And he thought it was funny and the science fiction. Aliens and The Thing. Alien and The Thing. Those were two of his favorite movies, not considered, he never considered it horror. He showed that to me at way too young an age and imprinted all that stuff on me early on. Um, so even it transcended that anti-horror folk like in my household. So, but yeah, no,
Right.
it's one of my favorites. I love that movie and everything. I think I revisit it all the time, and you have an opportunity to see what would happen with CGI when they did the prequel. And I still enjoy that movie, but I'm disappointed every time I see the CGI stuff going on in that one.
Exactly.
But the
Yeah.
original is amazing. I love that old 50s movie. I everything about it's fun. And the way they tackled the idea of the creature by making him more like a vegetable, basically, out in the cold and stuff. I find it to be fascinating, and I think that the premise of it and the way they did it back then
Right.
made so much sense with what the limitations they had. Um,
Exactly.
so yeah, I find those two to be movies I go back to a lot and revisit because I like both of those as a horror and a science fiction film. So
Right. Yeah, it works for both. And the just the amount of drama
yeah,
is,
the cast
drama.
is really fantastic in Thing from Another World.
Mhm.
Um, I wish it got a little more love with the studio because I
Right.
think they put out a Blu-ray, but it has like nothing to it other than the movie. And I'm like, man, I'd love some behind the scenes stuff. And yeah, it might be too late for interviews. I'm not sure if the cast is still around. But
I
there
would
had to have
doubt
been
that they are.
something. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'd love to see that one maybe in 4K. Because sometimes those black and white movies really pop when they clean them up a little bit, you know.
Exactly.
Creature from the Black Lagoon is one that does the Universal. I mean, it's
Oh
one of the
yeah.
most. It was a beautiful film to begin with, but their Blu-ray version cleaned up some stuff, and you put it on one of these high def TVs, and it's like, whoa,
Yeah,
looks like it could have been filmed today.
I bought that as a gift for my father for some Christmas, and yeah, it looked wonderful.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
another one
Creature
I
of the
wish
Black
would get a little bit more
Lagoon.
love. I love that movie too.
Yeah, that's a great one. I think that gets love from like 3 or 4 generations of my family.
Right? That's good. That's awesome. That's something you pass on. That's definitely a love of that should be passed down
Yeah,
generation to generation. So,
for sure.
is there a book or a writer or maybe a series that you like attribute to this is the reason I like to write or this is why I'm a writer or anything? Or is there just one that you really love so much that you always seem to go back to?
I think this is where I diverge with a bunch of writers, and especially with a bunch of horror writers, because I typically only read biographies or autobiographies.
Hmm.
I don't read as much fiction as a bunch of writers do. And the fiction I usually read isn't horror at all. And I don't really know why that is, because I love horror in just about every form. I think when it comes to anything that, you know, kind of ties into horror, and I hate to sound like the girl with a Nirvana shirt on who's never heard 3 songs, but I do tend to refer to Stephen King a lot. But even then, I what I love about him is his Dark Tower series.
Hmm.
It's I choose that, over Carrie and over Cujo and over The Shining. uh I love all 3 of those books, but I don't sit there and I don't spend a lot of time reading horror. And now at this point I'm almost afraid that if I do, it's gonna maybe influence more how I write or what I write. And I love being kind of that blank slate that um they didn't even expect any of this to happen,
Yeah,
because my first novel came out of a 4-minute song I'd written. I was gonna record an EP, and instead I wrote a whole novel based around this one character and a song.
that's cool.
Yeah, and I haven't been able to stop writing since. So at the last con last year, the one that we're gonna celebrate in June again, that was, a month after my first novel was published. This one will happen a few months after my second novel is published. And, maybe next June we'll be celebrating the trilogy of
Sweet.
this stuff that I never even expected to happen. But
So, were you big into music before the writing of the books?
oh yeah, so I've basically been a fan of music my whole life. I've been playing it and writing it for, I don't know, 4/5 of my life. And I thought, I didn't really pay attention in high school at all, because I thought it didn't matter because I was going to be a rock star.
Right.
I had a band, we played shows, we played all over DFW, we talked to record labels, and we thought we were going to, you know, be big stuff basically by the time I was 20 years old. And none of that happened, just like it doesn't happen for thousands of other bands. And then real life gets in the way, and before you know it, your wife and your kids are more important than a music career. But I never stopped loving it. I mean, I love music almost as much as I love my family. And after a layoff a couple years ago, I thought I would just go back to it. And so, got everything I needed to join the 21st century and record from home instead of record in the studio. And after I got everything set up, I wrote a book instead. So,
Well, and I've seen that happen a lot where, if you're a creative and maybe you do one thing for a while and then
yeah,
somehow, it just kind of morphs. You just that story needed to be told in a longer format and you make a book. So, and then you've kind of discovered your love for doing that and you keep going. So,
yeah. And I kept, a bunch of writing from creative writing classes all
mhm.
through high school and college. And went back and realized that I got a bunch of compliments from professors and teachers, and they're like, you're a really good writer. And somehow I just kind of never realized that that would be the thing that came to fruition, because I'm one of those creatives that doesn't finish something. I'm really great at starting it, and I'm really great at having the idea, and I'm not great at finishing. So the
I think a
idea,
lot of creatives are that way though. So
exactly. And
yeah.
I think so the thought of actually finishing a novel, especially with how fast I ended up writing it and how fast I ended up writing the sequel, I didn't expect any of that to happen. And now it's like, I've never done drugs, but I can only assume that this is the feeling you have when you need that fix. Like, I need to write, and I have, now ideas for I just published a short story. Next month I publish another one. I'll probably publish two more that I already have kind of in the can before the third and final book in this trilogy.
Mhm.
And it's like the floodgates just opened. And because horror is just kind of in my head when it comes to what I like to watch and what I follow, it seems like that was naturally going to be the course of my writing path.
Well, I noticed that your main character or your the main theme of what you've got going on is a vampire.
Yeah.
So is that kind of like your thing? Is that the movies you like? Is there a specific movie or series that might have inspired that kind of love, or is it just something that kind of fell into it?
So I think True Blood is what inspired this, because me and my wife had started watching the series,
Mhm.
you know, a lot of years back, and we never finished it. We kind of thought it had jumped the shark.
Yeah, I get that.
And then at some point, we are like, you know what? Why don't we give it another try? We did. We watched the whole thing through completion. And then just on my own, I was watching a lot of vampire stuff, like a lot of movies. And they basically inspired me to write that song. And I don't know if I knew it when I started writing it, but definitely by the time I was done with the song, I knew that that song was about a vampire.
Hmm.
And it took off from there. Like,
That's cool.
had an opening scene, had an opening chapter, and just kept writing. And now I'm in love with the guy.
Very cool. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of what happens with these characters, right? We kind of fall in and out of they fall in and out of favor inside of what we're doing in our little worlds and stuff. But most, a lot of these characters you fall in love with and you want to. Unfortunately, because we're horror writers, even though we love them, we probably put them through way too much hell. But that's all part of the fun of it. So,
Yeah, definitely. I
yeah.
think you have to have that conflict to keep it going.
I'm a big True Blood fan, but I'm a fan of the books. So I've actually only seen a little bit of the TV show. My wife's watched the series a couple times. That's kind of pick it up when I'm walking through the house. But I'm a fan of the writer. So, um,
Yeah,
and her take that I thought they were very interesting. The way that she kind of tackled that whole supernatural blending of all the different kinds of animals, creatures, monsters, and all that kind of stuff, and the mystery that she put into it. Yeah. So I was but yeah, I can definitely see where the show kind of does jump the shark a little bit as they continued on with the whole thing. So putting together the pieces that I've seen. So, but yeah, no,
exactly.
that's awesome though. It's cool that you guys went back and revisited it and that it helped inspire the path to you getting those books out. So,
Yeah, exactly.
um, speaking of, do you have any copies with you that you want to show us right now that'll be at
Yeah,
the table?
definitely. I do actually. So here's the very first one, House of the Black Moon. And this is the one that was basically the only thing I had to show for at the Texas Author Reader Con last year.
Hmm.
Now, this year, I will be promoting and selling its sequel, House of the Winged God.
Sweet.
And yeah, and I believe I'll start writing the third and final book for that character. Um, I want to say around Christmas time. I need to get some other creative juices out before I tackle it.
Yeah, for sure. That's the hardest part, right? When you have a series going, And then you also have all these like standalone things in your head. You're like, oh, I'd like to get that done or this done, or maybe you have, commitments that you've made with other anthologies or things of that nature, and they get in the way of you getting back. But you're always trying to claw back to that series. I'm trying to get to the third Goatman book. People keep wanting, but I'm like, well, I got all these other things I'm trying to get done too. So
Yeah,
hopefully we'll get
exactly.
there soon enough. But that's all part of the journey. So, and it's kind of fun too, and it's also cool when you're doing these series and then people are clamoring for it, and you want, you're excited to get that'll help get you to the next part too when people are asking you for the third book or
Yeah,
demanding
exactly.
the third book. So, those are always fun.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
all right, well, thanks for jumping on, and I hope to see everybody at Texas Horror Lit Fest. And it is, let me look again at the paper, June 27th, 28th, 10 to 6. It's a free event. Parking, they do charge for parking. I want to say it's 15. Um, but we're also doing tickets. If you go to the site with the link that's going to be below, you guys can get a free ticket, and that'll enter you into drawings and different raffles and stuff. So let us know you're coming and also get a chance to win some stuff. Um, Thanks again for coming on.
Thank you.
Take it
Have
easy.